Puka Nacua begins to rehab his battered public image with a terrific haircut. Justin Herbert skipped out on Chargers OTAs to simp for his girlfriend, and NBA execs forecast what Austin Reaves will get from the Lakers. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and start for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is May 29th, 2026. After 3 weeks on the road, it is so good to be back in the home office regularly. We have a booty load of news to discuss. So if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. So before we go through the news and notes, we have a quick look at the scoreboard. There were no games involving LA teams yesterday. Meanwhile, today, Philadelphia is at the Dodgers at 7:15. Justin Robleski versus Zach Wheeler. And the Sparks are at Washington at 4:30. No Kelsey Plum for LA. The WNBA's leading scorer is out with an ankle injury. So with that out of the way, let's get started on the news. Because Puka Nacua faced the scribes yesterday with a new year, new me vibe. You know, it's what you do when you go to rehab, a wellness clinic, holistic care, whatevs. You doodle in a journal and you come out a few weeks later with a new hairstyle, maybe a mani-pedi, and a PR firm crafted false apology. To recap, he's allegedly being sued for allegedly biting a girl on the shoulder at a New Year's Eve party. The girl also alleged he dropped anti-Semitic slurs. Now, to be frank, if the Rams thought this were a real-ish, like criminal, and by the way, the police aren't pursuing the matter, they likely wouldn't have had Nacua participate in the playoffs. But when you take what may or may not have happened with the girl, then you add ugly public chirping online with the refs, and bringing smooth-brained social media influencers to practice, you add all that together and Nacua was committing way too many party fouls. At best, he's the kid who started hanging out with the wrong crowd after school. Now, for me, I would have suggested that he spend an off-season back in Utah to find a nice girl to settle down with. But Utah is the state that produced that whack job, Taylor Frankie Paul. Not exactly a good way to avoid future domestic abuse charges. So let's get to the bottom line with Puka Nacua. This ends nothing. There's still that lawsuit pending. But I will say on some level, Nacua has to be super thankful that Mike Vrabel stuffed Deanna Rossini's line of scrimmage, if you know what I mean. Because otherwise, Nacua would have been the biggest offseason controversy in the NFL. Nacua keeping his nose clean and putting up numbers will go a long way to make people turn the page. And since he led the NFL in receptions last year, that's not exactly a big ask. 2, this controversy, maybe even a non-troversy, who am I to say, it's not about whether Nacua was going to stay with the Rams, whether his career was going to be over. This was all about him saying all the right things so that he could recover some of the money that he surely lost on a potential contract extension. The LA Times noted that the Rams are expected to have Nacua twist in the wind for a while. In other words, he is eligible for an extension now, but you let him play out the year, then you franchise tag him for next year. And if he's a good boy for that long, then you start talking long-term commitment. And 3, there is absolutely no reason for me to read any of the quotes from Nacua because we already know what he's going to say. Oh, thanks for the support. I'm changing this, that, and the other. The proof is going to be in the pudding, guys. But hey, that new hair, Tip your hairstylist, my dude. Decent look. Matthew Stafford told the punter turned ESPN working class hero in another story that when it comes to he and Ty Simpson, quote, I'm in there with them in the meeting room, on the practice field, trying to share as much knowledge as I can, unquote. So that's yet another reason not to buy into this whole the Rams didn't want Ty Simpson story. Now, it is true that the two quarterbacks have a territorial disagreement, but it's not about who's under center. The territory in question is the SEC. Simpson played for Alabama. Stafford attended Georgia. Said Stafford, quote, I sent him a text after he got drafted and said, really enjoyed watching you play. You were just in the wrong jersey. You weren't a dog. I did enjoy watching him play. He's a talented kid, unquote. So yeah, there's some Rams news to discuss. Let me know what you think in the comments thread. Meanwhile, with the Chargers' noted life is football, football is life addict, Jim Harbaugh claims that he is totally cool with Justin Herbert not attending the first phase of the off-season training activities so that he can catch his girly open her tour over in Poland. Now, I would be lying to you if I claimed to know a single song from Madison Beer. All I can tell you is that at least that girl doesn't have that same vacant, dead eye stare into the abyss that Chappelle Roan or Billie Eilish have. I mean, those broads look like they drank a 6-pack of formaldehyde before they turned on the mic. Herbert told Harbaugh of his plans. He was going to go hang out with Maddie over in Poland. And the coach claimed he replied, do you need a ride to the airport? And then Harbaugh added, quote, he's somebody who's here all the time. There are times I've wanted to shoo him out of the building. He's at every voluntary and non-voluntary workout. He's the same guy who broke his hand and was back the next day practicing, then stiff-arming guys in the game. So yeah, I was happy. Good balance, unquote. And that's a good attempt at lying. I do not buy this at all. Because look, I will grant you, I accept the premise that Herbert is a quick study. The dude's had 5 offensive coordinators. I will concede that point, no doubt. But he didn't miss out on one practice. He was gone for 2 weeks. I think Harbaugh is a realist. You know, he's probably sitting there thinking, if this dude were not the face of the franchise, yeah, I'd be kind of upset. But to ignore this completely is a bad idea, because I may not know modern pop music, but I know simping. Oh, do I know simping. If you don't believe me about what can happen when a quarterback hooks up with a pop star, ask Russell Wilson. Ask Russell Wilson. Bruh, you're 28, you signed a contract worth more than $250 million. Madison Beer, I looked up, apparently sings about mental health, self-reflection, and grief. How does that make her different from a part-timer at Hot Topic who goes to poetry slams? Not to totally red pill you, my dude, but focus on your purpose. Your purpose isn't in Poland. Meanwhile, at Charger OTAs, the offensive line is mostly figured out. I'm not saying it's mostly any good. I'm saying it's mostly figured out. Of the 2 injured franchise tackles returning, we know now that Rashawn Slater has retaken the left side. Joe Alt will be on the right. If you're looking for a battle on the offensive line, it's still going to be left guard. Between Trevor Penning, Coyote Aosika, and rookie Jack Slaughter. And as we forecast recently, there's another twist to the Bolts' new offense. They are going to take a cue from the Rams. They've apparently been throwing out 3 tight end formations at OTAs. So, of course, Charger fans too, get involved. Tell me what's up. ESPN went to execs around the NBA, and they said that it was likely Austin Reaves would stay with the Lakers. Duh. But not for a max contract. They are forecasting that Reaves is going to sign for 5 years, $200 million, as opposed to 5 years, $239 million. So you're saving about $8 million a year. How that applies under the salary cap, I'm not going to guess. But I am not sure how much we should buy into this report, because ESPN also claimed Brooklyn is going to be a player for Reaves. Really? You want me to take your reporting seriously and accept that a team that won 20 games last year could rise up and steal the Lakers' number 2 option on offense? You expect me to believe that? You expect me to take this reporting seriously? Sure, he'll go to Brooklyn. How much of a change could it be, right? Luka Doncic and maybe LeBron James, Noah Clowney, and Igor Damin. Decisions. Yeah, he's staying. Stop it. Meanwhile, over at Dodger Stadium earlier this week, reliever Evan Phillips threw his 3rd batting practice sesh at the Ravine since he underwent Tommy John surgery last year. The typical recovery time from Tommy John surgery could be a little more than a year to a year and a half. So let's not get too excited. He's not particularly close. He's going to get at least 2 more outings here before the Dodgers consider a rehab assignment. Phillips appeared in just 7 games last season before his ulnar collateral ligament went pop. The timing of his injuries has been particularly whack. He has missed both of the Dodgers' playoff/title winning runs due to season-ending injuries. If it weren't for bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. We've mentioned how Las Vegas claims to be so focused on winning the Stanley Cup that they just can't be bothered to return anybody's requests to interview their former coach, Bruce Cassidy. Yeah, he's fired, but you still have to ask permission. And no, the Golden Knights, they just can't spend 2 seconds to tell teams with coaching vacancies, such as the Kings, sure, whatevs, send the text. Too busy to do it. So, you know who's not cool with that? Bruce Cassidy, who went on a podcast that I don't listen to and said, quote, "It's upsetting. I'm going to be honest. There was 2 teams that asked. That's public knowledge now, and I would like to talk with them. I want to go to work. I'm a hockey coach," unquote. Now, to be kind of clear, his quote isn't exactly clear. There are 3 teams with coaching vacancies that probably want to talk to Bruce Cassidy: the Kings, the Edmonton Oilers, and Toronto. We don't know if the Kings are one of the 2 teams that he wants to talk with. Much like Doctor Strange using his sling ring to open up closed portals so that the Avengers can assemble, UCLA quarterback Carson Gordon found a way to reopen the transfer portal. He is going to leave Westwood, but not as a football player, as a track athlete. He's a triple jumper, but let's be real, he's going to use this as a way to find another football team to play for. It is what it is. And frankly, while you don't want to lose quarterbacks on your depth chart, I think we can all agree, when the hell was he going to play? Bringing in the nation's top recruiting class, it was abundantly clear that some of the freshmen would be asked to make an immediate impact with USC. CBSSports.com named 4 freshmen who could fit the bill, and it was a sourced article. Tight end Mark Bowman, who's a 5-star recruit. That's an obvious choice because if you recall, Lake McCree went to the NFL. Wide receiver Trent Mosley makes sense considering USC lost multiple receivers to the NFL. But side note, keep in mind, Fox also has scribes covering the Big Ten. Terrell Anderson is not a freshman, but they have a lot of faith in the transfer from North Carolina State. So that could be a battle. Also, linebacker Talanoa Ely is somebody I'm privately rooting for. For years, I've been saying USC football will not be back until they have a linebacker worthy of wearing 55. And finally, you're looking at safety Madden Reardon, who's a bit of a surprise as somebody who could get a lot of playing time early. He was only a 3-star recruit, but apparently they're high on him over at Heritage Hall. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me, for example, about what you think of Puka Nacua rehabbing his image. Or for that matter, Justin Herbert missing 2 weeks of OTAs. Kind of concerned with the simping? And if you enjoyed the update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortez Queso production. Take care.